Welcome to the Straight Talk on Fleet podcast with Erin Gilchrist. Each week, Erin will be breaking down fleet management, trying to cut through the noise and get down to the real issues safety and operations leaders are struggling with every day. The goal will be to get to the bottom of how leaders can break down these silos of information, accelerate change management, how to use real-time, accurate data to drive massive efficiencies across fleet-focused business processes, and to elevate people's careers with emerging best practices. Now it's time for the Straight Talk on Fleet.
Welcome, Fleet community. We are back for another episode of the Straight Talk on Fleet. I'm Erin. You guys hopefully have seen the podcast. If not, my podcast is aimed at being your reliable and objective source of information for the fleet ecosystem. And I can do this because, one, I'm privileged to do it. I learned from the fleet industry for a really long time, and I ran a big fleet for many years. So based on that experience, I know that fleet management's really hard, probably way harder than it needs to be. So what we do on the Straight Talk on Fleet is we break it down sort of fleet operations and safety leader style, and we focus on driver behavior, compliance, getting more from our internal and external partners and from our data. So with that said, today I'm super excited. We have Tommy Parker with us. Welcome, Tommy.
Thank you.
So great to have you. Tommy is the operations manager for many, many years at Fox Electric, and they are out of Arlington, Texas, and they are a customer at IntelliShift. So Fox was established in 1960, and they built a solid reputation for reliability and performance as electrical contractors throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So again, welcome, Tommy. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. So first off, tell us a little bit about yourself. Share with the audience a little bit about what makes you tick, and we'll start there.
Well, I've been an electrician since in the 90s, became a master electrician in 99. Right about the same time I came to work for Fox, and I was hired in to help improve their service division. And within about 2 weeks, I sat it down to fill in for the service division manager while he was out, and I never left that chair. And really worked and focused on growing and developing a good, solid electrical service division to service our customers. And over the years, just assumed a lot of other roles here at Fox Electric. And then as time went on, it evolved into where I am now as the operations manager for the entire company of all of our divisions. And that's kind of how I got to where I'm at. I've been here almost 25 years. It's a fantastic place to call home and the place I want to retire from.
I love that. I was talking to Tommy earlier, folks, and I was telling him that today's my dad's birthday, and my dad is a master electrician. So I grew up all around this type of business, and I always found it really interesting. And what's funny is I always did my science fair projects around electricity, something in that realm. So great industry. We love serving the electrical industry at IntelliShift. So we look forward to hearing a little bit more about that. So you shared a little bit about your background and sort of how you got into that role. It's interesting that, you know, you worked your way up and started out as an electrician. I mean, you probably didn't expect that you'd be where you are today. So talk about like leadership. What's rewarding for you serving as a leader in your company?
The biggest thing I would say that's rewarding for me is to be able to see our employees at any level be successful, watching them grow and learn and become the licensed professionals that electricians are and gain that understanding. But, you know, I love to see their success. I love to see them grow, learn, adapt, develop that initiative to do more, be more, want more, and allowing us at Fox to help them achieve those goals. I love to see how they can succeed. That's what really makes me tick.
That's wonderful. I love that. Over the years, I've been fortunate enough to have some good mentors in my career, and they really helped shape me as a person and as a leader. Anybody in your head that sort of sticks out that's been a great mentor to you all these years?
Without a doubt, hands down, the owner of Fox Electric. by Shahan, been a huge mentor, good solid friend of mine, from day one, and actually sat down at one point in time with him and questioned, what he thought my goal was or my future was at Fox Electric. And he simply asked me, he said, well, what do you see it as? And I laid it out to him. I said, I want to be mentored by you to actually take the reins of this company and run it for you. I want to see you retire and continue to watch this business be successful. And that's exactly what's happened. And so without a doubt, he has been the biggest mentor for me to achieve where we're at now, where I'm at and where this business is at.
That's awesome. It's great. Leadership is just the most critical aspect of business. That's why I love IntelliShift. I feel like we are a family, and I just feel like valued and seen and heard at IntelliShift. So that's just a gift that you've had him as a mentor and been able to work with him all these years. And I remember you telling me when we talked before that, he's there, but he comes in once in a blue moon, but he must really trust you. So that's great.
Yeah, he drifts in and out. You never know sometimes when he's going to show up, but we'll see him at some point in time each week, maybe a half a day or so. He's here now where we got a lot of stuff to go over this afternoon, but he has, over the years, he and everybody underneath him, me and down the line, have developed a team. Without the team that we have, to be able to put the trust and faith in these folks to do the job that they are hired to do, then we wouldn't be where we're at. You can't have your hands on everything. You have to have the faith and the trust in those folks to do it and achieve and give them the freedom to do it. And that's what we've done here.
Yeah, that's a great leadership lesson for those listening. It's just really, making people feel empowered to do their job.
Exactly. Yeah. And showing them that you have the faith and trust in them to do that. And, in this day and time, longevity is not necessarily in a lot of young folks' eyes when they hear how long somebody's been working somewhere. To me, it's an extremely impressive thing. We have our purchasing agent is in his 49th year here at Fox Electric. We have a lot of folks that have been here over 30 years, just an absolute slew that have been here over 20 years, 10 years, and so forth and so on. So to me, that really speaks for your foundation. There's a reason why they're still here and why they don't want to go somewhere else. And it's because the way we try to take care of them, and help them grow, provide, obviously, excellent benefits and a good package for them to help them be successful.
Yeah, that's great. I see the synergies between your business and ours. We're privileged to do business with you guys. And I think that, it's those things that connect organizations. You just find someone who's a fit and it works.
Right.
That's great. So, you're wearing a few hats while you're leading the operations there. You're thinking about leadership and people and safety and efficiency and productivity and all those fun things that operations managers going to do.
Right.
Talk about like some of your top challenges that you're dealing with right now.
I would say, it's one thing that's always a challenge, but here in the past couple of years, it's a challenge that we all face. And number one, and that's manpower. Having the staff to do everything that we need done, everything from our warehouse to internal staff here in the office, our maintenance, and for sure the electricians and the apprentices that are out there in the field. And it's a nationwide problem. It's not just our industry alone. We try to hire folks 52 weeks out of the year. You can't ever seem to find enough. And it's a big struggle. That's our biggest struggle is manpower. We've got all the things in place for them to be very happy to be here and be very successful here. But getting them here is a struggle just because everybody is facing the same issue. So employees are in high demand and they're in short supply.
Yeah. Which it baffles me. We could probably talk about that topic forever and have our own sort of viewpoint on it.
Right.
It's crazy, but it's certainly an employee's market, and trying to
Yeah.
figure out, they certainly are driving the bus, and it's hard because when you have a great place to work,
Yeah.
it's just about if you can just get them there, that they're going to come and be
Exactly.
happy.
That's what you touch on. If you'll just come see me, you'll see and you'll understand. And and beyond the manpower, some other struggles we have is obviously in the type of business we do, whether it be construction of a new house, construction of a high-rise building or a warehouse, to a simple little service call is efficiency. So you have to focus on your efficiency, because if you can't be efficient, then you're not going to be productive, and if you're not productive, then you're not going to be profitable, and then at the end of the day, then everybody struggles. So efficiency is always a key focus for us in the construction industry.
Yeah,
And
and I talk about that a lot on my different podcasts in a number of ways. And I always seem to come back to, whether we're talking about efficiency or, doing what we need to be doing with our data and seeing the right things and making good decisions. I always come back to safety every single time, because what I learned as a fleet manager is if you can't address safety as an organization from a culture standpoint and from a technology standpoint, I don't know how you really gain maximum efficiency in the other areas like maintenance or, fuel. I think if you build for safety, that's the right strategy, because then everything else sort of falls into place.
you're very correct on that. And getting that culture, that I think that's a big struggle for any industry out there, not just the construction industry or the electrical industry. It's getting that culture, thinking safety first, not safety third, and just having it right there every time they step out of the truck, uh, hard hat on, safety glasses on, where it's your habit, it's what you do, and looking out for that. And that goes for, obviously kind of where we're getting to is driving, and getting to where we get, because we're a mobile business. We have to get to where the customers are, whether it be the construction site or whatever. And where we live here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area it's a major metropolitan area, lots and lots of traffic. And our folks are on the road at the absolute worst times. So having their head on a swivel while they're driving, paying attention, and not being distracted by so many different things that could cause distraction is a huge concern of ours. And that's kind of what's brought us to IntelliShift.
Okay, that's a great toggle. I know that it's tough to build culture of safety. I've been there, and it's really hard. And I think the other challenge is, helping drivers understand the why. Like, why are we doing this? So when you and I talked, we had spoken about some challenges that you face. So let's dig in for a second. So you guys have come on board with telematics and AI video dash cams. I know that wasn't easy. So first before we talk about driver adoption, which is like a lifelong journey. Tell me about how you came to the point where you said, all right, we need to do something different and we need technology. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, with our fleet, which is approximately 180 units, and being on the road at the worst times, as I was describing, heavy traffic, congestion there, lots of stops, starts, going to multiple sites a day at times, leads to the exposure to vehicle incidents, and trying to reduce those numbers. When we looked at our historical data of incidents that would happen over a year span, and then trying to break them out from preventable to non-preventable, and then looking at the preventable, and that's a long list, or could be at times.
Yeah.
And trying to say, okay, well, what do we do? Because having a safety pep talk, sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. We had a pep talk one time that our safety topic for that week was your pre-check. Before you get in the truck, walk it, make sure everything's clear. And then if you're backing up, was one of the lines in there, making sure that you have everything clear behind you. 3 minutes later, 3 minutes, the guys walk out of the safety room, through the warehouse, get in the truck, back right into another company vehicle. 3 minutes at what we just talked about. So sometimes they're not picking up what you're putting down. So coming up with different ways to do that and ways to make it into where it's just part of life. Like I said, getting on the hard hat and the safety glasses and stuff is part of what brought us to IntelliShift. Because to me, the telematics is a very, very good tool, but not like the cameras. The cameras where you can actually show the examples to the folks of what is going on. When they're distracted, what are they not seeing that's going on in front of them? Being able to show that was a huge tool. Getting our, I really loved what I saw with IntelliShift. I interviewed a lot of folks about it, and I liked the platform, the ease of use, that everything looks like when they're showing it to you, how you can run your reports and you can get logged in and see everything you want to see so quick. So then I took that information and I presented it to my managers, because number one, I've got to have their buy-in and their support.
Absolutely.
Ever trickle down. Because if they're not going to accept it, how are you going to get the employees to accept it? And so I brought them into a lot of the meetings we had, whether it was a Zoom meeting or we actually, some folks flew down here from New York and met with me in the room next door here, and which was phenomenal. And that really solidified that management buy-in. And that's kind of how we got our foot in the door, was getting them to accept it and embrace it before we could go into getting the employees to do it.
I mean, then there's another leadership lesson right there. It's like this change management process. And I've done a whole podcast just on that, because if you you might know what you need and might know why you need it. It's all in how you present it to the people who are actually going to use it and execute on it.
Right.
That's everything. Because if you don't get them engaged early on in the process while you're piloting or testing or looking at options, one, they're going to feel excluded.
Exactly.
And then two, they're going to feel like this is something that you're pushing on them versus, hey, you're part of this conversation. You're part of this decision. Is this something that's going to work for you? And helping them understand what's in it for them. Because when you all are successful, like you have been, this is their P&L, right? Their
Correct.
success. And we talked about workforce shortages. I mean, the quickest way to lose people is, make them feel like they're not safe at work. I mean, do that once. And then not only are they going to leave, but they're going to tell people about that, and I think this idea of safety in the workplace is so underrated when you're talking about employee retention. Because I think culture of safety is an employee attraction and retention game changer.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? I mean, it's just, I think it's the number one way. It's like putting your money where your mouth is, saying, we care about you so much that we're going to invest in these tools and technologies to keep you safe, because all we care about is that you can get to and from work, to and from the customers, and maybe be in better shape when you get home than when you started. That's kind of the goal, right?
Exactly. We want them to go home every night, and we want them to go home, like you said, in better shape, in one piece with it, and have had a good day with it without any incidents, and back the next day. And I think it's a trickle down effect. So if they get the skills and adapt the training knowledge and the atmosphere and the lifestyle at work, then it's going to trickle down to the way they drive in their own vehicle, and get their spouse and children, whatever they're teaching them to drive, the same thing. It can spread throughout their whole life, but you've got to get them to body in on it. You have to have that culture.
That's a great point. It was interesting. I was on LinkedIn a few weeks ago, and the wife of a former technician for the company that I work for reached out to me and said, hey, I've been watching your podcasts, and I know you've moved on from Safe Flight, but I just want to thank you for all the things that you and the fleet department did, because I feel like I've seen my husband's van. I know the kind of tools and equipment that you put in there. And I feel like he has the right tools to do his job and get to and from work safely. And that makes me feel so good. And that was kind of the best thing that happened. Like I got that note that made my whole week because, it just goes to show that it's not just about the person that works for you, it's about their entire family, and just making everyone know that it is about safety and it is about culture. And so I love this notion that you just shared, and I hope our audience homes in on this idea of this trickle down effect. It's about your employee, but it's also about helping create good driving habits and for generations.
Right.
Just so
it's
a great
like
way to
creating
look at
a good
it.
electrician. You're improving the overall environment that we're in. So we're helping every electrical contractor out there by every good electrician we produce. And same thing, if you're creating safe drivers and people that are safety conscious in everything they do, that spreads.
Yeah, because I think this horrible trend of accidents increasing, even though we have better technology, is all about distraction. And that's where the camera differs from the telematics is awesome. It provides so much rich data. You can predict when vehicles need, serviced, and when there's fuel fraud and just a million other things. You can use it for routing and efficiency. But I think that where you graduate from great data and efficiency is when you go to the dash cam, because that's when you can not only help your driver control their environment in the cab, but all the things that people are doing around them, the other motorists putting your driver in danger. This helps alert them to situations that they might not have seen or not seen soon enough to do something about. So
Right.
it's just a game changer.
The video system, the dual camera system, to me, it's just a huge eye opener. When you sit there and you watch your distracted driving reports and you pull those videos up, and I'm just going to, so I'm doing this. I'm looking at my phone, and I'm looking up, and I'm looking at my phone, and I'm looking over here. All the stuff that goes on like that. And you're sitting there and you're seeing them do that. And we all do it or have done it. We're guilty of it. But then you see the reverse side. You're seeing out the front of that vehicle as they're zooming down the road, and all the stuff that's happening in front of them while they do this, and then they do this, and they adjust that knob, and they turn and they chat like this. Whatever the case is, it's mind blowing, and that's why we have rewritten a lot of our policies that are going into effect January 1. And the big one is getting a very well defined distracted driving policy into our company handbook, and it's going to the printers today. So we have everything ready for actually January 3rd when we come back to work, because it's huge. And
yeah, you told me you found that loophole because it's more than just whatever the state and local laws are. It's about having it written in a way so that everybody's uber clear on the best way to keep them safe and what you will and won't tolerate.
Right. Yeah. And we are easing into every bit of it. We're not going to put this policy in place, and we're already working towards getting everybody aware. But it's not like on January 3rd, you're going to just start dropping the hammer on everybody, because nobody's responsible for that. But you can start educating them, consolidating your groups, which is a cool thing about IntelliShift that we could get way into this, but being able to document everything on there when you have, we'll say, an offender, somebody that's constantly driving distracted, they're texting, whatever. If you really wanted to be firm right off the bat, yeah, you could terminate them or whatever, but you haven't saved yourself anything, because you can't replace them with another employee, but you can educate them, and you can get those groups together, and you can document all your training on IntelliShift. So you have that backup, and you can get them in as a group, so they don't feel like you're singling out just one person. Bring in several of them, say, look, let's watch some videos. Here's what happens when we have a distracted driver. Look at a couple of these samples and educate them without having to single out that one individual where he thinks that you're picking on him. And they walk away from there with, I think, a broader spectrum of what's going on. To me, when I started watching these, and you all notice it when you're going down the road, somebody on their phone or whatever, but now I'm constantly saying, look at that, look at that, look at what this car's doing, look at what this guy's doing here, driving a tractor trailer hauling fuel down the road, and he's got his phone up and he's just not paying attention to anything. And it really blows your mind what goes on that we have all become oblivious to, and we've all been guilty of it.
I love the word oblivious, because this type of tech helps retrain your mind to what you've been numb to, because it's just commonplace now.
Right.
So for people that are listening, there's so many great nuggets and all the things that Tommy's talked about so far. But this idea of adoption, I love the idea that you guys are pulling the guys in.
Mm-hmm.
That is one great way to increase buy-in, right? And to drive home that coaching, which follows, the videos and the events and the trends that you're seeing.
Right.
And not singling people out and making them feel like, hey, we're on this together, and we're going to be on this path. We want you on this path with us. And it's all about, you getting home every day safe. That's a good approach. So hopefully our listeners are picking up on some good pointers. Now, one thing that, I heard you say is just, it's hard to get that buy-in, but you're moving the needle. So I remember you telling me, and just tell me if this is right or wrong. My memory, in the first half of this year, you had somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 accidents.
It was close to that. So it was almost, it was about 22% of our fleet. If you took the number of incidents that we had in that first quarter, we had some kind of a vehicle incident, whether it was somebody rear-ending us or somebody sideswiped a ball, just things that involved our vehicles that could have been prevented. And out of that percentage, that number there, 75% of them were preventable, in my opinion. And that was kind of what really drove things home toward, I met with, our folks here and said, we are moving forward. We have to do something. And then it really opened folks' eyes. And since then, even though we've just been very, very easily integrating into how we're using and applying IntelliShift to the folks in the field, we've seen that number drop significantly already. So we've seen a great reduction in that. Knock on wood. I don't want to speak too loud, because the next thing that happened could be, somebody calling me, telling me they were involved in an incident. But that's been huge. And the other thing that comes with that, and this goes for anybody out there, is you implement something like this and you start dropping those numbers. You should, if you don't see it, then you need to ask for it, and that's a discount on your insurance. Because
I remember you saying your insurance company actually said, hey, let's get into something here. I think we're hearing a lot at IntelliShift when we talk to customers, and I talk to people out in the industry, because I'm out there all the time. This is more prevalent. Insurance companies are going to fleets and saying, we need you to implement something in your fleet if you don't have it already.
And it's been mentioned several times in the past, and we've kind of pushed away from it, probably because we didn't educate ourselves well enough at times on it. Maybe that's not the correct way to say it, but we didn't want to be thought of by our employees as Big Brother, trying to, watch everything they're doing and track everything they're doing. But our insurance company was like, guys, y'all really need to kind of consider doing something like this. And we used, dropping the name out there, but we use Travelers, and we have excellent support with Travelers. And our liaison was actually in an industry before where they used telematics, but they did not have the cameras back then. And when I brought him in and showed him what we were doing and what I was seeing and applying with IntelliShift, he was mind blown. He's like, this is awesome. This is amazing. He went to bat for us at our renewal, and at our renewal time, we were just installing IntelliShift. We actually, when we're sitting down with our folks here, renewing our policy over in our mechanic shop, they were installing units, and they were so impressed with how we were moving forward. We got a discount right up front, and,
wow,
and
that's amazing.
we could see a significant one, if things continue on when we renew again.
That's fantastic. And it's just to see the results. I know you had 20-ish accidents. And I think in the second half of the year, we're almost wrapping up. So 6 months of implementing this type of tech. Now, I'm going to quote you again. I think you said you guys have had only 1 or 2 incidents.
I think it may be 3. I'm trying. I know for sure 2, but it may be 3. Because we had 1 just the other day. We were not at fault.
It's good.
Actually, the 2 we had, we were not at fault. One of them was caught on camera because it was a front end collision where somebody pulled out, and we actually gave IntelliShift the rights to use that video to show, because you could see this car coming off a side street, and he's just hammering down, and he doesn't stop. He comes around behind a parked 18-wheeler right in front of us, T-bone, boom. Nothing we could do. Luckily, nobody was hurt, but it was great footage. It was great footage to help drivers be aware and understand, what can happen that quick.
Well, and I think in this type of situation, we know commercial fleets are targets, and this person could say, "I didn't, it was him," or it was her. And I think this notion of being able to exonerate your drivers is another kind of underrated thing as it relates to AI video dash cams, right?
Correct. When they tell you, "Hey, it's not my fault," it's not my fault, but yet you don't have the proof. And sometimes it's hard to make that judgment, especially if you're talking about a rear end collision. And in Texas, it's instantly looked at as failure to control. And now you're seeing and you're hearing of where this stuff's getting overturned and changed just by having that footage, being able to show that this driver was doing everything he could do.
Yes. Without
a doubt. And this person did this and this. And so, we're seeing that overturned. And, the thing you got to remember by training your drivers too is it could backfire on you just as well if your driver wasn't doing what he was supposed to do and that happened and they see you got a camera and stuff. But that's where your training comes in and you're educating your drivers. But I see it as a huge asset to help protect you, especially when you're talking targeting, where you're a rolling billboard and they see dollar signs. And
absolutely.
So if you can help prevent some of that, then that's great.
I love it. I mean, we've talked about protecting our drivers, protecting our reputation as an organization, being able to exonerate drivers and a great reduction in accidents. And I love all that. And we could talk about safety for the rest of our life. Hopefully we do that. But I think too, there's like so many other things that we can do with the data that we get from telematics and AI video dash cams, coupled with, your inspection data from your drivers. So, what are you thinking about as like the next big thing as you think about using your tech stack outside of safety, the most important thing, but outside of safety, what are you guys aiming for in the new year coming up?
So a couple of the big things that we've actually been meeting on this week, since this year's flown by and here we are, it's December and gone. With our fleet is the maintenance and the logging and tracking of our maintenance. That's one of our big focuses that we're getting into. We're going to be totally paperless on our maintenance logs come January 1. We have 3 guys in our maintenance department that work on our fleet, and they all know it. They all can log in, enter all their data on that particular vehicle or piece of equipment. What day it was there, what time it was there, everything they did, everything they need to do. They plug in photos, of the condition of something. If they need to, they set up to the notifications on when that vehicle needs to be serviced next. So we will ping them and let them know, hey, this vehicle's coming up for service. Give some time to reach out to that operator, schedule them to come in, down that vehicle for the proper amount of time that they need to spend on it, instead of them whizzing in, hey, I need an oil change and I got to go. Those guys need their hands on that to make sure that they go through with a fine tooth comb so it lasts you longer. You're more productive, saves you money. The little check engine light, that's what I'm calling it on the IntelliShift, where if a check engine light comes on that piece of equipment and it notifies your maintenance team, and they can log in, and then it tells them, it gives them the code of what it is. They know ahead of time
Love
They
it.
can, alternator failing. I'm just using that as a guess here. They pull up that vehicle. Okay, it's this kind of vehicle. They order the part. They have it there waiting on the vehicle when it shows up. Neat. That's such a cool feature. So that's
Talk about
one of our big,
efficiency.
yeah,
Right?
that's one of our big things that we're, come January 1 that we're really deep into. And the next one is getting a lot more familiar with the fuel tracking, the fuel integration. Just understand, because maybe we did or didn't mention it, we're only 6 months into IntelliShift. And so we've got a lot to learn, and there's so much out there that every day your mind's getting blown by this or this. But we use Ride Express or WEX as they call it, and it fully integrates with IntelliShift. So we're getting a lot of that data updated in there, because the reports that you can run and the data that you can pull up on your IntelliShift for your fuel with mirroring it with Ride Express is a lot better, in my opinion, than the reports we get from them. No offense, we love their program, but the way you can see the charts and the graphs and everything the way you personally want to see it, and you can make it that way, is great. Because I want to look at it one way, my maintenance guy wants to look at it a different way. So we just set it up the way we want to see it, and it just, boom, automatically sends it to you.
I love it. I keep saying this on my podcast. That's why I'm here. When I was running my fleet, I wanted this one place where I could go to see everything, fuel and maintenance and safety and efficiency and idling and who's stealing fuel and all the things. And I love that we can do that. And I'm excited that you guys are excited about it. And I love the idea of being able to have each user look at things the way that they need and want to look at things, so they can do their specific job the most efficient way. And then you, as running the whole operation, can have your bird's eye view on whatever it is that you want to keep your finger on the pulse of. It's fun. So I'm super stoked to hear that things are going really well and some of the future things you guys are working on. And I think the last thing I'd love to talk about, outside of just the tech, which sort of stands out for you in the relationship aspect of doing business with IntelliShift?
Well, I'll tell you, it's the thing that probably the tech, definitely kind of sells you, but it's the customer support. It's that hands down, when you have folks that, are right there at your fingertips. All you got to do is reach out. They're there. I do a bi-weekly meeting with my area guy, and he's here. He's not off in another state. He's not, in another country or whatever. He's here. He's available. He'll swing by. We'll work through issues. He'll work with anybody on my staff. He's always in touch with my maintenance team with all the stuff they're developing. He'll take your data. He said, you have a checklist that you use. Send it to me. We'll integrate it into the system for you. And then boom, next thing you know, they've got it in there. But the support that's there is hands down the best I've seen, and me coming from a service oriented background is it, customer service is where it's at. That's what sells and keeps your customers.
Yeah, that makes me feel good about working for IntelliShift.
Right.
The more I hear people like you say it's the people and the relationship piece of it, I really do think that's the biggest differentiator for us. And I too, from a service organization, my whole career, retail, distribution to fleet has all been centered around whoever that customer is, making sure their experience is fantastic and memorable and seamless. And so, I hope we can continue to be that and do those things for Fox Electric and certainly for you, Tommy. And then last but not least, gosh, I've loved talking to you. I feel like we could talk forever.
Oh yeah, we could do this
We'll have more chances to do this. But you have a lot of experience in operations and in efficiency and in safety and in fleet and service. I love to leave our audience with nuggets, right? That just kind of thinking about your career and what advice might you give our audience? I mean, on anything really, whatever stands out to you as a leader.
Well, a bit that was given to me one time that I try to hold true, and this goes into your personal life, into everything else. And you may or may not have heard it, is surround yourself with folks that are smarter than you.
Yeah, I love that.
And because if you build your team and your friends and everything around folks like that, then all you're doing is bettering yourself, learning and adapting of what you can be, what your potentials are, but surround yourself with that knowledge, that support. And that's what's made us what we are, is by having all these great folks and all these great positions that make us such an enjoyable place to be.
Well, and you continue, it sounds like, to empower them to be creative and do a better job for the company and bring new ideas. And that's truly how it gets done. So that's great advice. Such great advice, Tommy. Thanks. So Fleet community, gosh, I hope you've enjoyed as much as I have hearing Tommy talk about what they're doing, his relationship with IntelliShift, some of their future projects, the culture of leadership and safety at Fox. It's something we can all take to heart and learn from. So thank you, Fleet community, for being with us. And Tommy, thank you for your time today. It was an absolute
Well, I enjoyed it. I truly enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So if you like what you heard today, like and subscribe wherever you find content. And until next time, like we like to say on the Straight Talk on Fleet, keep it real, keep it safe for Fleet's sake. So thanks for listening.